How we holding up? Good? All right, great. See if the Virginia Tech engineering degree will help me figure this thing out. It's a pleasure to be with you today. There was a time when the story with me is I survived the Virginia Tech electrical engineering program. I took Monday off and went to work for Virginia Power on Tuesday. And there was a time where you might have thought going to work for a utility industry would be a pretty boring assignment, but it's been anything but that. I would say increasingly so in the present, because, and I'll cut to the chase, and you'll tell me, as I tell you Dominion's story, you'll tell me if you see this in it or not, but we're in it. The Next Generation Infrastructure Investment Program is not a future study for us. We are smack dab in the middle of the largest infrastructure investment program in the history of our company, and with all that comes with that. And we might argue whether or not it's the 50-year program that gets us all the way across the giant leap across the New River. But these are important stepping stones and will be important parts of the future infrastructure that what we need 50 years from now will be built upon. The original mandate to provide electricity safely, reliably, and affordably is still the mandate today. And it's primarily what establishes a relationship with our customers and the general public. But in today's world, there's another layer on top of that mandate, and it's the swirl of divided public opinion about the fuel sources we use to provide electricity, the siting of new energy infrastructure, and the location of electric transmission lines and natural gas pipelines, and on and on. This is a complex and highly capital-intensive business, and one that is vital to the economic well-being and security of our nation. Might help to give you some sense of the fact that we aren't new to the infrastructure game. Our company actually has its roots back in the colonial times when the Virginia General Assembly established the Appomattox Trustees, which oversaw a company that was responsible for navigation of the Appomattox River. Overall, there's 235 companies that have its source to the company today we call Dominion Resources. But 1909 was when we first got in the electric distribution business. And in 1925, we formed a company many of you may be familiar with, Virginia Electric and Power Company. It was that company that oversaw the tremendous growth of the electric transmission, generation, transmission, and distribution grid in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I suspect in 1925, there might have been a similar group of folks sitting around tables talking about the same types of things we're talking about today. Dominion Resources was a holding company. It was created in 1983, effectively because of the fact that we were looking overseas. We got involved in Latin American power generation. We ran electric distribution company in Great Britain. And then in 2000, we formed Dominion, refocused our energy domestically, executed a $9 billion merger with a natural gas company out of Pittsburgh, and it focused on growing the natural gas business, which we have done a great deal. So this is what we look like today. We're one of the nation's largest power and natural gas companies. We serve more than 5 million customers in 13 states across the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. I'm one of about 14,500 employees in 12 states, including the district. We have about 24,000 megawatts of nuclear, fossil, and renewable generation, 12,000 miles of natural gas transmission, 6,000 miles of electric transmission, 57,000 miles of electric distribution, 22,000 miles of electric. You get the point, right? There's a lot of assets. We also operate the nation's largest underground gas storage system in 4 mid-Atlantic states, as well as a liquefaction or a Cove Point liquefied natural gas terminal on the Chesapeake Bay. There are 3 overriding reasons for this investment program I referred to. The first is the growth we expect in our electric service territory, which is basically the eastern 2/3 of the state of Virginia and northeast North Carolina. We expect to add the equivalent of about 1 million homes in the next decade. The second is the extraordinary growth of shale gas production in the Appalachian Basin, including the Marcellus and Utica Shale in West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Tremendous amounts of inexpensive and comparatively clean natural gas present an unprecedented opportunity for our nation to be more energy independent and secure. But we have to have adequate pipeline capacity to deliver the commodity to market, and that's where we come in. We transport the gas producers are pumping out of the ground. The third major driver is of our investment program is a challenge that's been referred to this morning, a challenge for the entire nation, and that's aging infrastructure. Natural gas and electric systems need to be modernized and replaced. I suspect this isn't an audience I need to talk about. We're convinced that energy infrastructure is critical to the nation's economic well-being, but here's a list just for the record. Powers the digital economy, supports economic development, competitiveness in the global market. Study after study shows that new infrastructure investments boost productivity, income, and help the economy, just to name a few. This slide shows you exactly what we plan to spend infrastructure-wise in the next 5 years. It amounts to the single largest capital investment program in the company's long history. In fact, this 5-year plan is equivalent to building a mid-sized energy company from the ground up. And to give you a point of comparison, $19.2 billion in 5 years. If you take our market cap right now, we're about a $40 to $45 billion market cap company. So reinvesting half of our current market cap in 5 years. Not only are we in it, we're going really fast. You'll notice that the largest piece of the investment goes to Dominion Virginia Power, our core regulated electric utility serving Virginia customers, where we have about 2.5 million customers. Spend about $1.2 billion or more every year for the next 5 years. 4 main drivers. 1, the growth on the system. 2, a strategic undergrounding program to place the most outage-prone, because of the fact that where we are, we have hurricanes, we have a lot of different weather, place the most outage-prone facilities underground. A lot of the conversation about smart grid really is 10th grade geometry. It's a 30-foot right-of-way, a 40-foot pole, and a 70-foot tree canopy. It's just gravity in whatever direction a tree's going to fall is what knocks the lights out. Third, transmission line projects to carry power from our generation stations to the grid. And fourth, additional security measures at our substations throughout Virginia. We're going to spend, from a security standpoint, $500 million on improving the security of our substations over the next 5 to 7 years to harden them against man-made physical threats, natural disasters, as well as stockpiling crucial equipment for damage recovery. On the Dominion Energy side, our various natural gas businesses, which are primarily focused in the Mid-Atlantic region, will receive close to $7 billion in new investment as part of a 5-year plan. Much of it to help relieve the infrastructure constraints in the Marcellus Shale, shown in blue there, and the Utica Shale in yellow that underlies it. We're also in the midst of a program for our gas distribution companies. One's in West Virginia, one in Cleveland, based out of Cleveland, replaced about 5,500 miles of gas distribution pipe. We have many projects underway on the gas side, but 2 of them stand out for their impact. If you live in Virginia, you've probably heard about this one. The first is the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. It'll carry natural gas over 550 miles from the Marcellus and Utica Shale basins in West Virginia through Virginia into North Carolina. A lateral extension is planned over to the right-hand side there to the Hampton Roads area. This project will create thousands of jobs, promote economic development, help clean the air by displacing coal as a fuel source and power generation, and increase state and local tax revenues. It's a big deal. It's a $4 to $5 billion project, and quite frankly, not everybody's happy about it, especially landowners and others located along the pipeline's proposed route. But as you know, when it comes to big infrastructure projects, differences of opinion are pretty much guaranteed. The bottom line for Dominion is this: increasing the availability of natural gas supply in West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina is important to the economy and environment of the region. It can mean more jobs, lower prices to heat and power homes, and cleaner air for everyone. The second point is Cove Point. The second project is Cove Point. Cove Point project has faced its share of resistance too. The facility has been in place for nearly 40 years, not far from here near the Patuxent River Naval Station on the Chesapeake Bay. The terminal was originally built to import natural gas to America before the shale boom occurred. Now we are turning it around as an export facility. Modifying the facility to liquefy natural gas and export it is going to cost about $4 billion. Here again, this is a major construction project that will produce thousands of jobs and millions in new tax revenues for the surrounding localities. It also helps to meet the global demand for cleaner fuels. And that's a key point. Moving to cleaner fuels and less environmental impact will require us to rewire the national and global energy infrastructure. That takes a lot of time and a lot of money. These are big, expensive, long lead time projects with a long life expectancy. And that pretty much goes for all the capital projects that are in our investment plan. Cove Point, for example, we started talking about in 2011. It took us 3 years to get it permitted. And we're in the construction phase now, and it'll be another 2.5 years before we get it in service. Also investing in the power generation, allocated $5 billion to our infrastructure build out in that area. Right now, natural gas is the undisputed belle of the ball. Dominion is investing heavily in natural gas as a fuel source because nothing tops it from an economic perspective and has the environmental advantages with half of the carbon emissions of coal. Warren County Station you see on the right came online at the end of 2014. It's among the cleanest fossil fuel plants in the nation. On the left, you see Brunswick County under construction. That'll come into commercial service next year. There's a third gas plant that's been announced in Greenville County. It's expected to be completed in 2019. We've made significant strides in increasing our renewable energy portfolio in recent years as well, especially solar power. This is an important point. About half of our total electric output in 2014 came from emission-free nuclear power and renewable energy. About half, which is the renewable energy is increasingly important to us as costs continue to drop and operational efficiencies improve. We co-own 2 wind plants, one in West Virginia and one in Indiana. We're also a leader in evaluating the potential development of offshore wind along the mid-Atlantic coast. Additionally, we continue to look at North Anna 3 in Louisa County as an addition to our nuclear fleet. Despite high upfront costs, we continue to believe that new nuclear units must be a part of the conversation if we are serious about achieving a low-carbon future. This map shows the location of our operating solar facilities from California to Connecticut, with more in development. By the end of next year, we expect to have 600 megawatts of solar capacity under long-term contract with utilities around the nation. Additionally, here in Virginia, we are planning to develop multiple large-scale solar projects totaling about 400 megawatts in service by 2020. All told, we expect to invest about $3 billion in various solar projects around the country. This is a program you may or not be aware of. It's a smaller program, but an important one. It's a 5-year pilot project to install, we basically install and own solar panels on the roof of businesses and public properties across the state, really to give us increase our understanding how community-based solar energy by studying the impact and benefits. This particular facility is in Gloucester, Virginia. It's a Canon Technology Center, puts out about 500 kW. Offshore wind. A little more than a year ago, we took a big step off the Atlantic coast. We bid successfully to lease about 112,000 acres of federal land in the Atlantic off the coast of Virginia Beach in the first ever federal research grant for offshore wind energy. Our plan is to develop a commercial offshore wind turbine project to evaluate the operating characteristics and potential of offshore wind. Keep in mind, this is going to be a long-term undertaking, probably the next 10 years or so. There's still a lot of questions. Our initial estimates for building two 500-foot demonstration turbines was about $230 million. And these are about 2 to 3 times the size of the land version. But subsequent analysis and bids of work came back between 375 and 400 million, almost twice the original estimate. Long story short, we have to find ways to get costs down before we can proceed. But if we can get this done safely, affordably for our customers, this project, this offshore wind area could generate as much as 2,000 megawatts of renewable energy that would serve about 500,000 homes. Switch gears quickly to a major investment driver. This is where I spend a lot of my time, having I've had cybersecurity as CIO, but picked up physical security in the middle of this year. Purpose being to force we don't want to miss anything. Nobody wants to miss anything. If you put the physical security experts in room with the cybersecurity experts, we're taking in more intelligence. We have a better chance of catching things. That's the basic thought process behind it. There are 16 critical infrastructure sectors, and we're in 4 of them: energy, nuclear, dams, and transportation. With $55 billion in assets spread across the nation, it's more than security guards and tall fences to help protect it. We look at security as a continuum. The threats we face are interrelated, and they're certainly evolving all the time. So we have a cybersecurity operations center, a physical security operations center, a network operations center because we run our own telecommunications network, and a system storm center where we manage our storm restoration efforts. I really think someday those things come together. They'll come. They're electronically together now, but there's really no compelling reason I can see long term to keep those things separate. We also employ a robust risk management framework that serves as a useful tool in our planning and decision making. We have the utility industry, because we're not in a competitive environment, we have strong coordination between and sharing of information between us in general. It doesn't matter whether you're in electric distribution or in cybersecurity. Also, I think what that does is it means we have very strong relationships with the federal government. All the agencies you would expect, some you might not. In fact, I would say, based upon some other sectors I've seen, in terms of state, local, and federal cooperation, the utility industry is a pretty good model for effective cooperation. Even without federal legislation to help information sharing, we share a lot of information within the industry and with the federal government. Substation security, you may recall hearing in 2013 about an attack, Metcalf Substation, Pacific Gas and Electric. And that brought into sharp relief the importance of physical security at critical utility facilities. You see some of the pictures here, the picture on the lower left. We're currently investing heavily in this area to harden our substations in Virginia, part of the overall strategy to improve resiliency and security of the electric grid. And oh, by the way, that's just the fence. That's a ballistic fence we're doing. There's a lot of technical measures, security as well. We're planning to spend about $500 million over the next 5 to 7 years to harden those facilities and stockpile crucial equipment. We're also building a new system operations center for our electric transmission grid. It's currently under construction. I got to look at it week before last. It has state-of-the-art security technology to assist with real-time monitoring of the grid. And when it comes online, it'll have everything needed to support rising industry expectations and regulatory requirements. It's a pretty busy slide. We've typically used this to talk about cybersecurity strategy in terms of defenses in depth. Increasingly, though, I don't know that this might be the last time I use this slide in its current context. I would say since my time as CIO, we've gone from more of the defense in depth approach to resilience in depth, segmenting the network, putting in additional technologies to control the spread of anything that were to get on the system. I've got some work to do on this slide, but increasingly you're going to, I hope and expect you're going to hear more conversation in the cybersecurity arena around resilience in depth, and I do mean in depth. We face threats from all types of places, from the disgruntled insider to the foreign government employing hackers as cyber. So criminals is the word I would use for the folks that are doing this stuff. Criminals as cyber soldiers. There's no denying that countering the cyber threats in their many different forms represents significant operational, managerial, technological, and even recruitment challenges. In fact, if y'all know anybody that's really good in cybersecurity, see me after this presentation. Last thing before I close has to do with forecasting for the future, looking out beyond our 5-year plan and anticipating tomorrow's energy landscape. I mentioned earlier this is a capital-intensive business. We not only build big things, but we also have to build the right big things. We have to generate power at scale, which is the amount necessary to cover all the load, night and day, moment by moment, now and into the future. Our forecast tells us that our demand is going to grow in Virginia faster than anywhere else in the surrounding 12-state region, about 1 million homes added to our system. We obviously have to plan for that growth and well ahead of the time that is expected to occur. We go through an annual process called integrated resource planning, and it's really a least cost planning process, an exercise that most state, including our state, utility regulators require of their electric utilities to determine the mix of resources that will meet the future power demand at the lowest cost. Dominion's resource plan gets filed with the State Corporation Commission in Virginia. It looks ahead 15 years, and this one is different than most that we have filed in the past. This time we didn't offer the preferred least cost long-term option. Instead, we offered 4 alternative plans, each designed to comply with the EPA's recently finalized Clean Power Plan. For the electric utility industry, Clean Power Plan is the most comprehensive and far-reaching environmental regulation ever issued by the federal government. It is designed to change how we power America, and it will. If we'd followed our traditional least cost planning methodology, we would have sent in a 15-year plan based on one fuel, natural gas. For reasons I talked about earlier in terms of price. But that approach lacks fuel diversity, and fuel diversity is what protects our customers from price increases and supply disruptions. So each of our 4 resource plan alternatives focus on adding new low carbon or zero carbon power supplies to our fleet, all using natural gas to one degree or another. Especially with our renewable energy sources, solar and wind, we need natural gas as a backup when the wind isn't blowing or the sun isn't shining. I don't have time to go into the details, but effectively, I wanted you to have some understanding that there's a structured process for looking at least 15 years into the future of a traditional way of looking at the grid. I also should probably point out that the 4 alternative resource plans are by no means exhaustive. We could ultimately choose to blend various aspects of them to get the best combination of reliability and affordability for customers. However, one critical element they all share, compliance with the Clean Power Plan. There's no question that EPA's rule introduces an extra element of uncertainty into an already uncertain forecasting process. What is certain is that we will comply with the Clean Power Plan. We'll work with the Governor and Commonwealth to ensure the continued reliability of service. We'll remain committed to a diverse fuel mix, what's right for our customers. Cost of electricity will remain competitive in Virginia. We'll keep attracting businesses here, and the lights will stay on. That's our mandate and our mission. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this morning.